What is going on, my friends? Today we are ranking the top 10 best rare accessories in MK Mobile. This will include all rare accessories, doesn't matter whether they are actually originating from towers or crypt or whether they are legacy rares. So without any further ado, like usual, I'm going to let you know that this video is 100% biased, totally prejudiced, so it's perfectly fine to disagree somewhere. Let's begin with number 10. And coming in at number 10, we have actually a legacy rare, the Grim Essence. This gear is criminally underrated. For one thing, it gives you 20% power generation boost, which is super useful more or less in any fight. And on top of that, it gives you 50% critical hit chance boost against enemies affected by bleed. Once again, 50% critical hit chance boost. That is totally busted, not only for characters such as, for instance, classic Scorpion, but if you have at any fusion assassin Scarlet, she will make sure that the entire enemy team is bleeding for pretty long time, and you can take advantage of that and just demolish everybody. So generally speaking, super useful gear. The only drawback I have with it is that it's kind of situational, so apart from the power generation boost, the critical hit chance boost, you won't be able to take advantage of it every single fight, but definitely it is one of the very best accessories in the game. And ranking at number 9, guys, I give you the Specters Inferno chains. Look at this piece, it is absolutely brilliant. 70% chance to drain 33% power on special attack 1. Awesome. 25% chance to avoid damage from opponent's special attack and apply fire. Super useful. Also, Scorpion and Smoke have 50% chance to pull back the enemy if they try to tag out, stunning them in the process, and in the end of the day, you reflect 30% of the avoided damage to the opponent. Generally speaking, probably some of you would rank this piece higher on the list, but the thing that I dislike about it is the fact that every single time when I play Scorpion, it doesn't matter whether it's MK11 or let's say, for instance, Strike Force Scorpion, it never feels like I need to power drain them in the process, because if I'm using MK11 Scorpion, I'm going to do special 1 loop and I'm going to basically cripple them. If I'm using a Strike Force Scorpion, I'm going to lock them into a stun loop so they won't be able to use any special attacks whatsoever. And I'm not really a fan of this chance to evade special attack. I mean, it's always good to have, but I prefer to be always on the offensive. I prefer to control the match, and if you control the match pretty good, then you don't really require this. Still, I believe it's useful, but definitely I wouldn't really rank this piece any higher. Once again, I'm not really a fan of the power drain. It is good, but if I use it on Scorpion, it doesn't really add tons of value. And second thing, I'm not really a fan of this evading mechanics, because in a lot of cases I simply don't need it. And coming in at number 8 is the last legacy rare. It is the Soul Medallion. This piece is so old, literally this piece is 7 or 8 years old, and it is still relevant to this day. Look at this, 20% power generation boost and 50% reduced cost on special attack 2. Once again, to this day, I'm using this piece every single time when I need to use a character that mainly rely on special 2. I would always consider Soul Medallion. Maybe in certain situations I wouldn't use it, I'm going to use some other piece, but generally speaking, I'm always considering using it to this day. This is how great this piece is. It has the two things that you require the most if you want to use a special 2 spammer: power generation and reduction of special 2. Once again, this is everything that you need for those types of characters. And ranking at number 7, guys, I give you the Wicked Sister Festive Mask. 50% chance to apply bleed to an opponent on any successful special attack. This is super strong. Also, 40% chance to apply incurability debuff to an opponent for 10 seconds on combo ender. And look at this, bleed stacks up to 3 times. The user vampire has 33% damage from up to 3 last bleed dots. This is so OP on so many characters, especially for instance Classic Rain. If you give this to Classic Rain, he can do triple bleed on their entire enemy team and absolutely demolish them in the process. So definitely one of the very best pieces when it comes to bleeding. It doesn't have to be on Melina, it can be on Slasher Jason. Once again, it can be on Classic Rain, it can be on any character that can spam special attacks, and this is going to add value to it. The only drawback with this piece is that in order for it to start really working well, it has to be maxed out, and this is the main reason why it doesn't rank higher on the list. And coming in at number 6 is the Viper Hood. Probably by now a lot of you are wondering why the Viper Hood doesn't rank higher. And there's a simple reason for that, because the first two attributes are not really that great. Some of them are situational at best and not incredible. For instance, 60% resistance to snare. That can be useful generally, but in a lot of cases it won't do anything. Look at this, 35% chance to apply weaken to enemies affected by dot on special attack 1. This is super situational. First thing first, the enemies should be having dot on them already, then you have to do special attack 1, and only once in 3 attempts you're going to apply weaken, which isn't really the most destructive debuff in the game. However, the power of this item comes at Fusion 10, which applies Dispel and Regeneration for 7 seconds on special attack 2, and this is guaranteed, there is no percent chance involved. So in a way, even if you are poisoned, you are going to dispel the poison and you're going to regenerate, and this is absolutely busted. So definitely the Viper Hood ranks as one of the best accessories in MK Mobile. Alright guys, there we go, we are in top 5, and number 5 is occupied by the Weaken Dat. Look at this. Gain shield at the start of the match and on tagging for 15 seconds. This is absolutely great. Successful basic attacks have a 25% chance to vampire 50% of the damage, and achieving 90% plus on any special attack applies Oblivion for 10 seconds. This piece is all about sustain. More or less, you are shielded all the time, or let's say almost all the time, as long as you keep tagging in and out. And on top of everything, you have pretty good chance to vampire the damage. So even if you get, for instance, damaged, and if you get injured, you can basically recover by simply punching the enemies. And on top of everything, applying Oblivion to your enemy means that they cannot snare you, they cannot cripple you, you name it. So definitely one of the most useful pieces in the game. And coming in at number 4, we have the Director's Makeover. 35% critical hit chance boost, which is massive for an accessory. 15% chance to apply shield break on critical hit. More or less, the enemy is going to have shield break on him all the time, especially if the enemy is a boss. And look at this, 100% chance to apply incurability on user tagging. I absolutely love this piece. For one thing, it gives you a lot of utility and damage, thanks to the fact that you'll be applying shield break, which is going to boost your damage, and you'll be critting more or less all the time. And on top of everything, this piece counters one of the worst modifiers in the game, regeneration. The moment you tag, you're going to apply incurability and stop the enemy regeneration, which is absolutely busted. Definitely one of the best pieces in the game. And there you go guys, top 3 best accessories in the game, and the third place is going to be occupied by the Shintai of Malice. This is absolutely gem of an accessory. At Fusion 10 it gives you 100% chance to apply Death Mark on user attacks. So you tag in, you apply Death Mark. Absolutely busted. On top of that, 30% team resistance to all debuffs. Once again, team resistant to all debuffs. Super useful more or less every fight. And the ultimate attribute that unlocks Fusion 10 goes like this: Death Mark can stack up to 3 times. Now, the best thing about this piece is the fact that it gives you team resistance to all debuffs. Even at Fusion 0 it gives you 20%, which is absolutely massive. This is actually better than classic smoke passive, because classic smoke passive works only for classic characters, while this piece works for all characters in the game. So you can give it to the support guy that never actually tags in, and it's going to add value. You can give it to your main fighter that will tag in and out all the time, and it's going to add value. Definitely super useful piece. The reason why it doesn't rank any higher is because I really don't like the ultimate attribute that unlocks at Fusion 10. I mean, the Death Mark being able to stack 3 times is useful, but it's nothing really incredible. I can definitely go without it. It's going to give a little bit more extra damage against bosses, and more or less that's it against bosses only or very difficult fights. But generally speaking, I prefer, for instance, shield break. It's going to be much easier. Alright guys, it is time to reveal the runner-up of the video. And coming in at number 2, guys, are you ready for that? Coming in at number 2 is the Rocking Token. 25% power generation boost, super useful. Special attack 1 deals 35% damage to all opponents. That is something like a minor version of a team soak. Once again, special attack 1, do that, so you can spam special attack 1 with Scorpion, with Johnny, with basically anybody, and this is going to add value because it's going to be damaging the enemies that are tagged out. Super great. And look at this, upon receiving fatal damage, the user resurrects with 15% max health and applies slow to the opponent, once per match. This piece has everything. It has attacking power, thanks to the fact that your special attack 1 will also damage the tagged out enemies. It has utility, because of the power generation boost, and it has defensive value because it guarantees that you cannot die. You're going to resurrect with 15% max health. Of course, you have to be careful of death marks and brutalities, but generally speaking, you have peace of mind the moment you equip this piece. And the reason why this piece doesn't win the video is because the accessory that's going to win is simply OP. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but now I want to talk about the 3 pieces that didn't make it to the video, but I consider them to be pretty useful. These are the Celestial Blow, the Divine Pauldron, and the Vial of Infinite Blood. I believe that every single one of those pieces is quite useful. However, they have specific things that I don't like. For instance, the Vial of Infinite Blood, it applies bleed, but the bleed isn't really that strong. It seems that this bleed is a nerfed version of the regular bleed for some reason. The Celestial Blow is good, but I prefer the Grim Essence most of the time. And the Divine Pauldron is also good, but the strength, I would go for Shield Break instead of strength, to be honest. So definitely those 3 pieces are also pretty good, but for the reasons I already listed, they didn't make it to the video. Now it is the time to reveal our champion. And probably none of you is surprised that the winner of the video is the Varmint Slicky Hat. This piece is just overpowered. It is extremely strong. Look at this. 20% chance to steal 2% of the opponent's max power on basic attack. Probably you're going to say that's not a lot, just 2%, but the thing here is, the keyword is power drain on basic attacks, which can trigger the weak point attacks talent, which basically means that you can snare on basic attacks. You don't have to do combo enders. You don't have to do special attacks, you can snare by simply punching the enemy. This is super OP. Look at this, on tag out, 20 seconds of team shield. Do you realize how strong this thing is? Imagine you have a character A who has the Varmint Slicky Hat equipped. He tags out to character B. Character B tags in and fights for 10 seconds, then basically want to tag back to character A. If you do that, he's going to still have the shield for another 10 seconds. So in a way, this piece is self-sufficient. As long as I tag in and out from character A to character B and vice versa, and I keep the character B tagged in for about 10 seconds, I will always have shield on both of my characters. This is how strong this piece is. It is absolutely busted. On top of that, let's review the last attribute. All opponent team characters need to collect 30% more power to fill up each power bar. Now, this is not a power drain, but what this piece does is it adjusts the power bar of the enemy. So in a way, if you're fighting, for instance, a team that starts with 3 characters with special 2, none of them is going to start with special 2, because you're going to require more power to get there. If you're facing a team that starts with an X-ray, you can forget about it. There will be no X-ray teams that you should fear, because none of them will actually start with X-ray. It doesn't matter if the characters are classic Luke Kane or Black Dragon Tremor, because you're not actually power draining them, you're just adjusting their power bars so that it requires more than 3 bars of power to get there. So they can never start with X-ray. So this piece is absolutely busted. It has probably the best defensive stats in the game, the best utility in the game. Generally speaking, incredible piece, and not to mention that you can actually give this piece to your support character, and this is going to be more than enough. The support character is going to give your team 20 seconds of shield, and on top of that, the support character is going to make sure that the enemies require more power to get to special 2, special 3, you name it. Definitely the best rare accessory in the game, and probably the best accessory generally speaking, not only when it comes to the rare pieces, but even if I compare this piece with epic accessories, it is going to be, if not the best, then one of the best. Alright guys, please let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And have an amazing rest of your day. Take care guys.
Perfect.